This video will discuss perimeter. Perimeter is the distance around a polygon. So here we have a rectangle. You could have a pentagon. You could have a hexagon. You could have a triangle. Okay, all of them we can find the perimeter by finding the sum of the sides or by using one of our perimeter formulas. Students, for this problem, I'd like for you to find the perimeter of this figure in centimeters. Pause the video now and push play when you're ready to correct. We'll go ahead and correct this problem now. So in order to find the perimeter, I need to add all of the side lengths for this figure. And I can see that every single side does in fact have a number. Sometimes we will have to fill in blank sides by using information from the problem. When we add in a problem like this, we want to add using good reasoning skills. So I want to make tens, I want to make fives wherever possible. So I can see here a 3 and a 7, those make 10. And I'm looking at these two, those 3 plus 2 make 5. And then here I can use this 5 with that 5 and make a 10. So if I look at my groups, I've got one group over here that I've added up to 10. This is another 10, and this is a 10. So 10 plus 10 plus 10 gives me a perimeter of 30 centimeters. And with perimeter, since we're just measuring length, the unit is just centimeters. It's not centimeters squared, it's not centimeters cubed, because it's just a length. Let's look at another problem. If the perimeter of the figure below is 47 feet, what is the length of the missing side? Students, I'd like for you to solve this problem and push play when you're ready to correct. Hit pause now. We will go ahead and correct this problem. So, they tell me the perimeter in this problem, and they tell me that it is 47 feet. And checking, all of my units are in feet, so I don't have to do any conversions. Now I can see that this is my missing side, and I know that if I was to take the sum or add up all of these sides, including the missing side, I would have 47. So if I add up all of the other sides that I know the numbers for, I can subtract that total from 47. So let's do that. And again, let's use good reasoning in order to make tens when possible. So I can see here 8 and 12 make 20. And then I can go ahead and add, let's do 20, 10, and 8. The sum of those sides is 38. So now what I need to do is subtract that from 47. We'll do that on this side. So 47 minus 38. We need to decompose a 10, so we'll only have 3 tens, and those 10 ones, we're going to put them with the 7 ones we already have. Now we have 17 minus 8 is 9, and 3 minus 3 in our tens place is 0. So I'm just going to leave it as 9. So the missing side is 9 feet. All right, it's time to kick it up a notch. This problem is a little bit more challenging than the other two have been. I want you to excuse the distortion with the pentagons that happened when I imported this slide into this app. Each of these pentagons has the same side length all the way around. So pentagon T, each side is 13 millimeters. On pentagon V, each one of these sides is going to be 19 millimeters. Which statement is true? A, the perimeter of pentagon T is 6 millimeters less than the perimeter of pentagon V. Now, as I scan down my answer choices, I can see that the perimeter of pentagon T is the beginning phrase in each of them. And if I scan the end of each of those sentences, less than the perimeter of pentagon V is in all of them. And I'm checking to make sure the wording is exactly the same. So once I narrow down that the only difference is in the value in the middle of each of those, then I can ignore the other parts and it becomes less confusing. So I'd like for you right now to use what I've just shown you about this problem. Go ahead and pause the video, work it out, and then we will correct when you're ready. We'll go ahead and correct now. So if I'm looking for the difference between the perimeters of these two pentagons, it's important for me to think about how many sides are on each one. I know that there are 5 sides, and it says that each one has a length of 13 millimeters. So I'm going to go ahead and label each of those. And I know one way to find the perimeter would be to add 13 plus 13 plus 13 plus 13 plus 13. But we've learned in 3rd grade that repeated addition, adding the same number over and over again, is the same as using multiplication. So since I have 5 sides of 13, I can multiply 13 times 5. 5 times 3 is 15. 5 times the 1 in the tens place is 5 with 1 more makes 6 tens. So the perimeter of that one is 65. Now let's calculate the perimeter of pentagon V. Each side is 19. So we're going to go ahead and do 19 and multiply that by 5 because I have 5 sides of 19. And we have a perimeter of 95. So now if I want to find the difference between the two, I can do 95 minus 65. And I can see that the difference is 30. And then I need to verify that pentagon T, that one is less than pentagon V. So I'm going to find the one with 30. Perimeter of pentagon T is 30 millimeters less than the perimeter of pentagon V. Now I'm going to show you another way that you could have done that. You could have looked at the difference between each side. So if this one's 19 and this one's 13, we could have subtracted 19 minus 13, and we would have found a difference of 6. Then we know there are 5 sides on each of the pentagons, so I could take the difference of 6 on each side and multiply that by the 5 sides to find the difference of 30. So there were 2 ways to solve this problem. Here's our last problem in this video. Thomas is creating 3 vegetable gardens and wants to make a border around each garden. He plans to make 2 gardens like Garden A and 1 garden like Garden B. How many total feet of border will he need? And up here we have Garden A. It's shaped like a rectangle. This side is 15 and this side is 9. And Garden B, also shaped like a rectangle with side lengths 12 and 7. Go ahead and solve this problem. We'll go ahead and correct this problem now. So one of the things that should always bother you when you see a rectangle with only 2 side lengths that are labeled should be the empty ones. Now we know that if this side up here is 15, this one is also 15. And if this is 9, then we know that this one is also 9. We can also label the other 2 lengths of Garden B. So now I want to figure out what is my perimeter for this one up here. I'm going to use a different formula for showing the perimeter for these. So we also have a formula where P equals 2 times the length, and that's in parentheses because we have to do that first, plus 2 times the width. And since this is in parentheses as well, we need to do this before we can add them together. So looking at garden A, I would have 2 times the length, 15, make my parentheses a little better, plus 2 times the width, which is 9. Now, I know 2 times 15 is 30, and I need to add that to 2 times 9, which is 18. And I know that the sum of those two is 48. So garden A has a perimeter, and I'm going to just put P equals 48. Now garden B, let's use the same formula to calculate that perimeter. 2 times the length, which is 12, plus 2 times the width, which is 7. I know 2 times 12 is 24, and 2 times 7 is 14. So if I add my 1s, I have an 8, and then I can add my 10s, I have 3. So the perimeter for garden B is 38. And we need to think about how many of each type of garden Thomas is going to make. So he wants 2 like garden A. So that means I'm not just going to have 1 with a perimeter of 48. I need to have 2 with a perimeter of 48. And then he would like 1 like garden B. And garden B has a perimeter of 38. So I'm going to add those up because I need to find the total feet of border that he will need. So 8 plus 8 plus 8 in my ones place, that's the same as 8 times 3. So that would be 24. 2 plus 4 is 6. 4 and 3 on the bottom make 7. 6 and 7 are 13. So he will need a total of 134 feet of border.